just go ahead and jump in. I'm Virginia Pierce. I'm the director of the Utah Film Commission. I am thankfully just going to be a bystander in this one. I'm going to turn it over to our three very capable panelists, and I'm actually going to get them to introduce themselves, starting with Mr. Jeff Whipple.
Greetings, filmmakers and film lovers of all stripes. Welcome. This is a conversation that we've been anxious to have for a while. I am Jeff Whipple. I am currently the Vice President of Advertising, Marketing, and Public Relations for Megaplex Theaters. I've been at this gig for about 12 and a half years, which seems like a lot of Star Wars movies and Twilight movies and Harry Potter movies and lots of films. Actually grew up in the industry, grew up as a kid actor in Hollywood. So I've been at this a long time. I wanted to be normal, so I went to college in hopes of being normal, planned on becoming an accountant and then going to law school, and stumbled into the broadcasting program at BYU, where I earned a degree in journalism and spent about a decade in TV news. So I've been in front of the camera, behind the camera, to the side of the camera, cursing the camera, doing all kinds of things in and around production, and looking forward to this conversation. You are the dream makers. Let's have some fun with show business. Brandon, that's your cue.
All right. Yeah, my name is Brandon Purdie. I'm the owner of Purdie Distribution, a full-service theatrical distribution company. We've released over 30 films. I've personally worked on the release of over 100 films, and our goal is to maximize revenue through the theatrical experience. So I've pretty much spent my entire life either working in theaters, managing theaters, or distributing movies theatrically to theaters. So since I was 14. So, but yeah, I'm excited to be on here. That's all I got.
Michelle?
All right. I'm excited to be here also. So I run a marketing and PR firm. I've been doing it, I don't know now, maybe 10 years now. I've worked with Brandon on almost all of the theatrical releases. And I am super excited to be here. There's a lot of great dialogue and conversation that we can have as we move forward on this.
Excellent. Okay, so I have been after our friends at the Utah Film Commission for some time to talk about this conversation. Welcome, my friends, to the intersection between art, craft, and show business, with a capital B on business. And if any of you have ever watched an episode of Shark Tank, this is going to perhaps wander into that realm. We've had previous conversations, and I've been compared to Mr. Wonderful, so buckle up. I'm the grumpy one, but the hope is we're doing this in love. We're not trying to panic anyone. The goal is to give you tools that will turn the love of your craft and your art into something that will help pay the bills. Fair? So, words of wisdom to get started. Michelle, why don't you give us the thumbnail elevator pitch?
Have a marketing plan, have a PR plan, have a team that's going to help you release your film and know the market that you want it to go to. That's my 30 seconds.
We're done. Yeah, that's it.
I
go there.
can talk for an hour and a half if y'all want, but that's my 30 seconds. Have a plan. So many times filmmakers they've spent so much time, money, effort, energy into producing it, and then they have no idea of a marketing plan or how they're going to get it to consumers.
And really, don't panic yet. We're going to get you there.
Yes.
Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, number one, congratulations to anybody that's trying to make a movie or has made a movie, because it seems like the hardest possible thing to do is to make a good movie. And to be able to even get it made is pretty substantial. So my words of advice would be to align your desired outcome with the content that you make. And don't be surprised by either one of those in the end. Kind of know where you're going before you start, and and make the movie you want to make, but also be prepared for the distribution that follows.
Nice. My pitch here, we're going to first give you some homework. We're going to send you to a movie, preferably a megaplex, but that's just me being shameless. I'd like you to go to a movie, and if it's a movie you really look forward to seeing, go see it. Just go and enjoy the movie. Then you're going to have to go back and see it again. Again, me being shameless, I'm going to talk you into buying 2 tickets. If you've already seen a movie, great, whatever. The second visit is I want you to reverse engineer that movie. I want you to start from the very beginning, how you heard about it, what made you excited about it, who was the cast, how did you learn about that? I want you to build a timeline with that information of reverse engineering that movie experience, whether it has anything to do with the genre, the film title, whatever you're doing on your own personal project. I want you to walk into a movie theater with a ticket or buy the ticket at the movie theater. I want you to look for the movie poster. I want you to look for the artwork. I want you to look for the standee. I want you to see if there's a hat that you've recognized for that film title anywhere. I want you to think about the times you've seen it on Good Morning America, Entertainment Tonight, The Tonight Show, all of that. All of those pieces. And then ask yourself the big question, where did that come from? And then you will have a glimmer into the world that we're talking about as part of this conversation, unless I'm wrong. Brandon?
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot goes into it, I think if you get the right distribution for your movie, that they're probably they're putting as much time and energy into every detail of the distribution of the movie as was put into the making of the film. So, yeah.
Michelle?
I think that that's a really good point that you bring up. And so many times at different stages of the filmmaking process, I'm brought in to either talk to or consult with and find what those marketing points and the story angles and ways that they're going to be able to get the information out to the end user. And so that's, as you're looking at the big scope and as you're looking at that white canvas that you have right now, those are the things that you want to be able to fill up with. I love what you talked about as far as all of the marketing assets really that you need to be creating along the process. And I know we're going to get into a lot more of those, but they're so important in the long game.
This is where I asked Virginia and the team at the Utah Film Commission to cue the Lion King music, because I've had this conversation any number of times, and we've actually seen the question come in from some of you, and we phrase this in love. The number of times that filmmakers have come to us at Megaplex, talking to our film buyer, myself, our president, we're in exhibition, and they present their film like they're handing Simba to the crowd. They're playing Rafiki and holding up Simba with music playing, and the throng gathered and sort of not knowing what am I supposed to do with this, my creation. Love this and embrace this and salute it and no, put Simba down, protect Simba. We're not there yet. Okay? We want to love your film too, but we need you to think about some steps before the Simba moment. That's part of the reason for this conversation. It's love, but it's going to come with some tough love. We're going to have some lively things to talk about. So before you come to me with Simba, because I'm in exhibition, Megaplex has 15 locations, Logan down to Mesquite, Nevada, 176 screens, 5 IMAX. If you do this, you're not ready for me. You need to call Brandon. You need to work with Michelle. I'll help you, but I've also got Disney doing this to me. I've got Warner Brothers doing this to me. I've got Paramount and Lionsgate and every other filmmaker in the world doing this to me. So we need to get a marketing plan, a distribution plan for your film. And that's part of this conversation. We can't cover it all here. So start asking your questions, go to the chat, and we'll break it down as best we can in the time we've got. So, Brandon, I've got Simba. What do I do?
I think a great piece of advice if you're making a feature film is to try to align with distribution in the earliest phases of the movie, and let them start to consider building it. Purdie Distribution, we really look at ourselves because we're first window, because we're theatrical. We're looking at ourselves as a branding, equal parts a branding company as much as a theatrical distribution company. So we're creating a brand that we feel like can stack up and can hold up to all windows, whether it's streaming or DVD or any other platform that the movie's going to be on. But we do that through establishing it through a theatrical. So, I mean, I think that aligning with the distributor early and having those conversations early, especially if it's an independent film with a smaller budget, can really save you a lot of money in the long run. What we can capture on set of a movie being made kind of costs, $20,000 or $30,000 to try to recapture after the fact when we're trying to just get into the distribution phase. So yeah, I mean, partner early. And if you say to yourself, I'm not really the business person, I don't want to get into the sales side of it, then I would just say I'd cast that role first. I'd find that business partner first. I'd find the Adam Abel to your Ryan Little right off the bat, and try to figure out who's going to play that role.
I hope everyone took important notes of that. You're casting your director of photography, you're casting your lighting guy, you're casting your talent, you're casting all these other people. Cast your business people. Hire those people. As much as fun as it is to run that credit card until you've smoked it and have to apply for another one, put your house on the line, all those other things, you need the accountant people. You need the business people that know how to get your money back so that your father-in-law will actually speak to you at Thanksgiving. These are important decisions to be making. You've got stories to tell. You want to tell the story about your film, but you also got to tell a financial story. And this is where we get into the Shark Tank comparison. You have turned art into a product. And selling a product is different than looking at a beautiful picture or a piece of art. If you want to make your money back and monetize this and sell hats and toys and lunchboxes and all those other things, I mean, grand illusions. Michelle, your thoughts?
Yeah, my thought is that you want to hire people that are going to work just as hard and just as aggressive as you have in making your film. There are many, many people that I work with in different, from the filmmaker to the actors to the distributor, that we're constantly emailing, texting. It is not strange for me to receive a text from Brandon Purdie at 2:00 in the morning. It is not strange at all. In fact, my husband's even used to getting the text notifications. But find someone that's going to work hard, that is as driven and committed as you are to getting the message of your film out. You can hire agencies, you can hire agents, but make sure that they are aligned with what your goals are as a filmmaker.
The business people, and yeah. bringing them on early.
Yes.
Is a big deal because they can save you money. They can help you anticipate. They can actually help you raise money that will help cover their costs and the cost to market the film. So coming at it with a business plan makes a lot of sense. And working through those pieces earlier, Brandon mentioned, $30,000 to recreate something that you already built. We've all heard the stories about actors having to go back and reshoot. We've heard the stories of Superman's mustache being digitally remastered because they needed to go do pickup stuff. those production things. If we can get artwork of the cast, if we can get location stuff, behind the scenes stuff, suddenly you've got PR gold. Those are pieces that you plan as part of this process. And if you're not thinking about it, cast that person who is. Unless I'm wrong. I've been to studios in Hollywood with, frankly, seen behind the curtains of some stuff. And our friends at the Mouse House refer to it as swim lanes. And they assign a marketing team from day one. Once a project is greenlit before they shoot a frame of footage or before they turn an artist loose. They've got their distribution plan ready, their production plan ready. They start the strategy for the PR that goes with it. They align the merchandise, all these things. And that's who you're competing against. And not to say that that's where you have to be exactly, but they do it every day really, really well. And there are tricks to this trade that you don't have to invent. The big boys are doing it pretty well, have spent a lot of time and money. I'm going to introduce you to a phrase you're probably familiar with. You've certainly been exposed to it. And even an independent theater chain like Megaplex is using it, called a propensity algorithm. This is that magical technology where Google says, or any of the online shopping carts, Amazon says, people who've purchased that product also like this product. So here's a trick that is going to make you viable in this business. Figure out what movie is the closest to the one in your head or the one you've got sitting on your hard drive, and reverse engineer what they did with that film. Who distributed it? What did it do at the box office? What merchandise did they create? What does their website look like? Anything you can possibly find out about that film. They've invented the wheel. You're just trying to replicate it. Utah filmmakers, we've got some common threads that go through some stories around here. Some of those may be on your hard drive. Brandon has sold me a lot of films that target a very specific demographic. And the model is pretty consistent. How does that work, Brandon? Did we lose him? He's gone. I scared him away. Oh, that was unintentional. Michelle?
I'm sure he'll jump back on. And I've worked with Brandon a lot. So as far as how it works, Jeff, this is a great question for all of you that you're probably wondering, where's that first step? Where do I get involved? And how do I get my movie showing? If your end desire is to be on a big theatrical screen, how do we get that process in motion? And I'm hoping Brandon will jump back on because he'll tell you the ins and outs. Our relationship is he works directly with theater chains, and Megaplex is in that. So is Cinemark, so is AMC, so is Harkins, so are all the Idaho chains. And Purdie Distribution has been incredibly successful in taking niche and mainstream films to market and producing gross box office returns for the filmmaker. And I have to tell you, it is a team effort. There are so many people that I work with on a theatrical release. We have, I don't know, I think I have like 6 slated this year already. So COVID was a crappy year for so many people, but I'm so grateful for all the filmmakers that still worked hard to create content and that have been creating super hard, right now. And we're excited to be releasing these films. So we have Mission Stories that's going to be in Megaplex theaters next week on Friday. And we have been working super hard the last couple of weeks in putting and aligning that material. So for example, tomorrow I'll be at ABC4 with the executive producer. We'll be doing an interview with our local market, and then we'll be able to repurpose that content. And the Utah Film Commission is amazing to support these filmmakers. And I'm smiling, Josh. I just saw your big smile. So Joshua French, who's on here, does a fantastic job in the film. And so you'll want to definitely go and see it to watch his performance. But the thing that I love a lot that the Utah Film Commission does is that they support you from the beginning of your application, your inquiry about locations or whatever, all the way through the process and the theatrical run, or however you're distributing your end product. And what I will do tomorrow is I will text Derek and Christina and Virginia the link from ABC4, and they will also share it on their platforms. So as you're looking and as you're building your marketing plan and your distribution plan, understand the different components and the different areas that you can successfully get your information out. Because just doing one interview on a network television program, that gives you now collateral and gives you assets, it gives you credibility that you can now share with other people. And even with Megaplex, there's been times where I've had Jeff on an interview with one of my actors or one of my directors, and it's about networking, all of those opportunities where your film project may align with a different organization, a different company, another filmmaker. And I think Utah especially is so collaborative in that effort. They're so excited to help one another be successful in the launch of their film.
It's true.
I'm going to jump in for a minute, Michelle. I think you make such a good point. I see Brandon's back. And I think one thing I wanted to do early on is just have everyone understand like how the PR arm works versus how the distribution arm works. And I think you gave a good understanding of like, when you get involved, what does that mean to have someone who's doing publicity for you? And Brandon, maybe you can talk a little more about when someone's hiring you to do distribution, what does that mean?
Yeah, so it depends on which part in the process we're in when we interact with the film. But typically what we're doing is we're acquiring the film and then starting to build the brand, all the marketing materials, but also starting to negotiate with theater chains and navigating the slate of films that are coming out. So picking the right date, pretty much everything from the filmmakers hand us over a finished film, and then we create a full marketing plan. We build a team of professionals to release the film. Kind of my philosophy is that a lot of distribution houses, they have one team that distributes all their films. And in my experience, I didn't like that. I wanted to be able to build a new team for every film that could match the film. So we put together that best team for what the strengths of the film are. And then we start to negotiate with who's gonna release the DVD, who's gonna release, where's it gonna go, where the streaming rights gonna go, and how is all of that gonna happen, so that we can kind of build a full team of distributors that are gonna release that film, and we can start to window that film. We can say, okay, if we're theatrical here, then we can hit DVD here. Maybe this film is a better DVD before streaming option, or vice versa. And we're looking at the big picture, and then we start building our voice advocates, like who's going to talk about this film, what are the different niches, and so kind of from all the way from the end, and then we go all the way until we settle out the percentages with the theater chains, and we collect the last dollar in. So we're kind of the first distribution person on, and kind of the last distribution person off the field. And then we hand that off to the next platform, and they release the film.
So one of the big questions: how do the smaller films compete with the monster films?
Me? Are you asking?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, very carefully. So oftentimes, like there's only been maybe once or twice in my whole career where we got to just choose the weekend we wanted on the film, and it was a giant weekend, and then we went uncontested. And that's like thanks to our good friend COVID, because when we were going to release The Forgotten Carols, that film was going to be up against two giant films coming into the release of the film, two big studio films. I think one was James Bond and another one was Soul by Pixar. And both of those films left, and we had kind of Thanksgiving in Utah unencumbered for a few days until The Croods came out. Typically the way that we really fight the bigger films is to realize that we can't compete with them on budget. Like, we have to have films that have a heartbeat, films that can touch the soul. Like, what's our marketing campaign going to be? How can we make the movie a movement? How can we make it something bigger than just another film? And then counter programming is really important. So if we have a family faith film, we don't want to go on the same weekend as a Pixar movie, but we might be fine going against the biggest rated R cut 'em up film that's coming out, and we're just kind of the counter programming the voice to our audience. But yeah, it's delicate and careful. The one thing that I think you should never do as an independent is look like an independent. When it's a forced error, when it's something simple as printing a poster at a legitimate one sheet film poster place and not having a washed out Kinko poster up in the theater, or having your trailer not have the proper signifiers of a theatrical film, and so all of a sudden you stand out even more against the big theater. That your opportunity theatrically is that you get to play right next to the biggest films on the planet, and you get the opportunity to brand yourself in that space. And so your poster and your trailer are still the most significant asset that you have to any budget level of film.
Technology is a huge equalizer. There are people, I grew up in California, I grew up in LA, and there are people that I grew up with that love living in Utah or Idaho or other places, because who needs to drive 3 hours in traffic to live a life? So the technology is great. And to Brandon's point, look like you're playing with the big boys.
And I would say
big league.
To those points also, Jeff, to have people test your key art. There's so many times where we get, as a production team, a distribution team, we'll get the key art concept, or we'll get the final, and we think it's still concept art. So don't just ask your family and your uncle and your wife or your husband what they think of it. Go to somebody that will give you honest feedback, because so many times that is a make or break just right there. Speaking of technology, like people looking to see what the film is about. The other miss that I just wanted to throw back in here, and Brandon mentioned also, is doing all your promotion photography during the production of it, and including in that is your behind the scene photos. And this is going to be so important for you on a media campaign. And I'm not just talking screen grabs of some fantastic shots that you got for your movie. I'm talking about, let me have a picture that shows the director or the DP or your producer or your actor in one of your cast interacting with the director. That's what I need for earned media, is to show the production value of what you've created as the interview, right? And there's lots of different points that you would bring up and angles that you would discuss. But I need more, or your publicist is going to need more than just screen grabs from your film.
It takes some forethought.
Yeah.
I knew this Zoom call was happening. And if you think the logo behind me or the full bucket of popcorn was an accident, you're not paying attention. These things are premeditated. You set up every shot. You make sure the lighting is right. Do that with an eye for your marketing and distribution. It's easier to do it while you're in production than after the fact. That's when the meter really starts to spin. So the baby steps. If you've got the film in the can and you haven't taken these steps, it's not too late. You can recover. There are steps you can take, but building these steps into the process I think is going to save you some time and heartache later on. The reverse engineering that we talked about at the beginning, if by chance you go back to see that film the second time, look at the freeway version of the billboard versus the movie poster, because artwork looks different at 70 miles an hour. These are things that you just need to consider. And actually, you're busy. You're making a movie. So again, going back to finding the right team and breaking it down. Wisdom, Michelle?
I think you're hitting on all the key points. I'd like for us to maybe jump into some of the questions that we've had people asking so that we can give you just some of our industry knowledge in helping put you guys on the right track.
Someone's asking about connections. Where do those come from? Brandon, tell me about connections.
I mean, that's part of the reason why you go with the distributor, is that and again, I've never made a film. I've produced on a film, but I've never made a film. So if I speak to this and I sound inaccurate, forgive me. But just like a producer comes to the table with the relationships of how to get that movie made, a distributor should come to the table with a broad variety of connections to be able to either to theater chains, the film buyers, marketing firms, PR firms, different downstream distributors if they're not taking all, and find access through distributors. That's how I would do it. Other people might have other advice of going to luncheons and mixers, but for me, I think the most effective way in distribution in filmmaking is to get a distributor that's connected, that you trust, and then work with them to get to the people that you want to get to with the film and the industry and with the audience.
I came really close to requiring everyone, when they win their Oscar, to name the three of us as panelists in part of their acceptance speech, maybe listing us as producers. I'd love one of those Oscars. That'd be swell. Every person that you hire has a different list of connections. So your distributor has a different list of connections. Michelle's list of media connections is different than my list of media connections. So, and everyone here has access to our friends at the Utah Film Commission, and they are overflowing with connections. So start the process early and play phone a friend early and often to build your team and get them involved in the process. Years ago, when I was working in TV news, I interviewed a filmmaker at Sundance, and I said, "What's the key to making a small independent film?" And he said, "Everyone who wants a copy of my script gets a copy of my script. Because I need to make sure that everyone who shows up for work for me is making the same movie that I am. I can't afford to have different people making a different movie, and that includes your business partners. Give them a copy of the script. And there are little tweaks you can make along the way that may help fund your film. There are just a host of things that you can do early. Because as far as I know, the DeLorean time machine is not functioning. That was a delightful film, but going back in time is really tough, especially when you're this far into a process. So our hope is that we catch you early and have you start thinking about these things. Not that you have to do it all, but that you start asking questions about what is going to become of this film, what is going to become of this project.
And Michelle and Brandon, maybe one good thing would be to give an example of someone who's done this well. I think it always helps me to see, like, compare it to something that's already been done. Do you have an example you want to share?
We probably have a lot. Which one do you want to? Should we just? I love Lamb of God's success. That's such a great story. Brandon, how do you feel about that one?
Yeah, it's a great example.
So do you want to? You jump in because it was your brainchild. So let's do that, and then I can talk about the marketing and PR about it.
Okay, yeah. So we last year we're in the middle of a pandemic, and Michelle calls me and says, "There's Forgotten Carols is doing a taping. Should we do a theatrical?" And before she could even ask, I said yes. And I've been on, like, theaters been closed for a year, and I just thought that would be the brand. So that film opens. It has a solid success. The filmmakers come to the table saying, "Just tell us what we need to do to get this film out to theaters," and they fully trust the strategy, 100%. That film's a success. We do a lot of business with it. And after that, I sat down and wrote down other projects that I thought during a pandemic that could do well. And Lamb of God came to my mind. And I reached out to our partner on that and the producer, Arthur Van Wagenen and Excel Entertainment. And they went and made that film. And from the very beginning, we kind of had the room and the capacity to be able to create the strategy and the release for that film in a really fluid way, and it worked out great. So that's what I'd share.
And I think what I would add to that also, and I know that you guys worked with the Utah Film Commission. It was actually filmed at the Utah Film Studios. And we worked really quickly on creating the behind the scene pictures. We worked with some amazing talent to get the news stories rolling. I think the biggest thing that Brandon has touched on a couple of times in this call is timing. Like, he looked really closely at what was being released, what we could, partner with and be able to get more eyes on our stories. And then obviously the film delivered. The film delivered even bigger than I thought that it would deliver. As a consumer watching this movie, it was so shareable. I have mother-in-law, and my own mother has seen it like 3 or 4 times in the theater by themselves. So the film delivered. And I think that's one of the things I want to make sure that we bring up here is that as a filmmaker, you need to do, your job in giving your distribution team and your marketing team the best film possible. Because the longevity of that either being on a streaming platform and getting views, or a theatrical release, or getting a DVD sale, whatever channel it's going to go through, that's going to be important. And I like to think that we can work miracles sometimes. And there have been, we talk about our relationships and networking. There are many times where I've had to call in favors to some of my media contacts. And those lists, those people that I work with, you could probably find them on Google. You could probably find them if you go to the news station, but they won't know you the way that they know me or other publicists. I'm not saying I'm the only publicist in this market, but you want to find those people that have those relationships. Lamb of God was evidence to me that, one, consumers want to get back into the theater. So the fact that you either have a film right now that you're getting close to releasing, or you're in the filmmaking process right now, consumers want to see it in the big theater again. That's where we want to go. We want to be entertained. So stay focused on that mission, and just work really hard to know that you've got the team and the assets that you can have a successful release.
To contrast that, right, you said one that worked really well, where we're involved from the very beginning. And every decision we can say, make sure you capture that, make sure you capture this. Sometimes, and I won't mention names, I'll get a film and they don't have a budget for marketing. They didn't take any images on set. They know that they want to release in the middle of July for no good reason, but just that they like the idea of releasing in July, and they don't have any resources and assets. And, that's a challenge. So if you have a low budget, the remedy for that is not to just say we have a low budget. Is to start talking to distribution early, regardless if you have a budget or not. About 80% of the films we release, we help raise the marketing budget for that film. And usually those happen from people talking to us during pre-production.
Timing of films is an interesting conversation as well. I don't know if people realize how seasonal film distribution is when films are released. The holiday films that come out when there's snow, that kind of stuff. But the rom-coms that come out in late January and leading up to Valentine's Day, these things are not coincidences. Back to school time, grown-up films come out. The Oscar stuff comes in September and October amidst all the slasher films leading up to Halloween. So there's some interesting timing things that go on. And Brandon's point about counter programming is genius. Great wisdom there too. Because there are people that just like going to movies, which is lovely. I think pre-pandemic, Hollywood released about 911 films, 2019. 31 of them paid the bills, but other than that, you get a gazillion-dollar movie. There were, I think, 65 that made less than $10,000, and we're trying to get you guys over that hurdle. We want a return on investment for you and every one of your partners. That's the goal. And good films need an audience, and our hope is that we can help deliver that.
So I've been looking through some of the questions too, and I think there's a couple about just, extremely low budget or no budget. What are your recommendations? Because I know obviously the ideal is that you do budget and plan for marketing and distribution, but is it feasible to DIY the whole thing and even self-distribute theatrically without help? So maybe that's kind of a triple question. I'd love to hear from all three of you. Just, if you're can you do this DIY? Michelle, do you want to start?
Sure. I think that you need to manage your expectations. That's going to be the biggest key. Is if you don't have the budget to go big and you don't want to partner with the distributor. I love what Brandon said, that many times, and I've been witness of this, many times they'll go and they'll do the work and they'll help find the P&A money, marketing budgets that you would need to release the film. Can you do it on a DIY? Yes. And if you're looking to just touch that, under 100 people or under 1,000 people, and that's your goal, then you're going to be able to hit that. Are you going to have a huge box office? Probably not. Are you going to have a huge following? Probably not. Are you going to be able to get some earned media? Are you going to be able to get some interviews about, when we had a theatrical release? Probably. You probably can do that. The thing that I have seen as I've talked with filmmakers that have a low budget, sometimes all they want is just to get some credibility that they actually made the film and they completed the film. And if that's your goal, then congratulations, because I know that that's a huge feat. I mean, the fact that you've created a film and it's finished, it's edited, congratulations. Like, I don't want to just gloss over that fact and say, now you need to go up against Disney and Pixar and all these, big names, because that you need to understand what your goal is. So I would say, if you manage your expectations and you're not looking for a huge box office, then you can, but it depends on what your goals are. Brandon.
Yeah, so really, if you look at cinema and film history, you'll see that, like, although the technology is so drastically changed in the way that films are consumed and shown, and even in my lifetime from 35 millimeter to digital, giant revolution. The interesting part about that is that the things that have not changed are that your poster and your trailer are your most significant resources. They're also much cheaper to make than a movie. So you can make a high quality, high production value poster and trailer for a small budget. And so I would say that if you have a micro budget and you're making it, to create marketing elements that really do exceed the film as aggressively as you can. I would also just encourage that never self-judge the film. So there was a film last year that we took out, and sadly we opened it up the Friday before theaters closed for the pandemic. But it's called Heart of Africa, and that movie was made for a very small budget with a huge amount of heart and a significant work that was done to make the movie. And it wasn't going to go theatrical, but I saw that film and I felt like there was a market for it. And so we went and we found the marketing resources. We built the team of the full distribution. We released that film. It's still playing on different platforms. So I think it's really important to just talk to distribution early on and to see what's a reality and see what they might find in your movie. You never know. You might also find additional finishing funds or additional marketing budget. And I'm kind of a broken record about that, but I do think that is the key. There's a reason why my number one rule is like the filmmaker never makes the poster or the trailer. And that is because you're so close to it. It's hard to turn that thing into marketing elements to be able to drive people back into the theater. And so building that apparatus and not judging your film as to what you think could happen in that moment of creating the film, but talking to people who know the market and know the avenues. They very well may feel like you have a theatrical film in hand, and could support that in many different ways.
I've seen some clever things. People have made really, really innovative posters and trailers on spec, used a GoFundMe approach to get things started, to start approaching and getting investors on board, selling the concept first and then going forward. It can take a long time, but if you're racing to beat your Visa credit card statement, it can get a little scary. And that's part of the reason why we just felt like this conversation needed to happen, that we start talking about how important it is to have a plan in mind. And to Michelle's point, managing your expectations going in. If you want to see your film on a big screen, we do that. We rent auditoriums all the time, and people come in and show whatever they want.
That was my question, Jeff, is do people come to you and say, I just want to get my film up on a screen?
I want to have the experience. I want to even do a test screening. We actually have studios that come in and do that. They will show a test audience films that are incomplete with storyboard art dropped into place to see how a movie's playing, to see if the story is landing where it's supposed to. And those kind of resources are available. So you can absolutely start at that level and not spend the fortune and put your house on the line if that's a reality for you. Doing it yourself, baby steps, but know that there are bigger steps out there.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, it's the age old, you get what you pay for. And one of the other questions that I'm seeing a couple of is just, how much should you budget, which I know is a hard question to answer because it depends on the size of your project and what that is. But, is there any kind of, Brandon, Michelle, advice? Is there a percentage? Is there any way to look at that to give them some idea?
I typically spend, of my marketing budget, I typically spend 20% on poster and trailer. So if we have a $1 million marketing budget, that's bigger. If we have a small marketing budget, sometimes that's small. But yeah, I don't know of the production budget. I don't know. I'd be curious to hear what Michelle has to say about that.
I know what I do for earned media. I don't know exactly how much, a typical spend is on social media advertising. And again, collecting the assets like building a trailer and building the key art. But I think you have to look at that percentage like Brandon's getting at with what your production budget is. So if you're at 250,000 or if you're at 30,000, it's going to be representative of the content that you're making. I remember being at an award show, the Utah Film Festival, Warren Workman's Festival, but we worked with him in getting Taylor Sheridan there as a guest speaker. And if any of you have been to Warren's festivals, they have a lot of different categories. And I just remember before Taylor went on the stage, Warren had a category of, filmmakers for under 5,000, the winners in this category of filmmakers under 5,000. And when Taylor got Sheridan, who you guys know is from Wind River and Yellowstone and I'm butchering him. I should have Derek unmute himself so that he can say all the other words that Taylor Sheridan has done. But a friend of Utah, he gets up there and he says, he asked the filmmaker who'd spent $5,000 on making a film to stand up because he wanted to applaud him. And Taylor said, I spend that much on ketchup in my productions. So it was a moment that was meant to be comical, but there's some reality to that. So don't compare yourself. If your budget is $30,000, you're not going to be able to spend what you are at 250 at 3 million. And I know from a distribution team, we've worked on projects that are $30,000 or less. And I've been on a couple of $1 million production films that we've done the PR for. So I think that again, I don't know, Virginia, that I have an actual number that I could say, but it definitely should be a representative of a percentage of what your production budget is.
Yeah, we're just texting with the Film Commission. We might work with you guys after to try to figure out a rough estimate. It would be a great percentage, I think, to know. Mm-hmm. Okay, a couple other questions because I know we just have a few minutes, but it looks like Travis is asking, can you talk more about a distribution and marketing team? How many people is that really? Like what positions are you filling when you talk about that?
Yeah, is that a question for me?
Yeah.
It really depends on budget. So, like your marketing budget not only pays for your ads, but it pays for your contractors, it pays for your team and your professionals that you have on it. So if we have a budget, we have a movie coming up entitled Witnesses. It comes out June 4th. And, that film, we have a budget where we'll have a 7-8 person team on the marketing distribution team. I have another film right now where we may have it'll be me and 2 other people, and I'll bring people in strategically a week before opening or 2 weeks after opening and strategically place that budget so that we can get the biggest bang for the buck. But the roles, we're filling social media, we're filling design, creation, not only for the poster, but also for social content for all different platforms. We're bringing on somebody who has retargetable assets to be able to retarget, a digital online manager, ad buyer, Michelle Moore, PR, publicist, or media. And then from there, it kind of goes specialty. Like, is the film a specialty film? Then we'll bring in a PR firm that has track record in that space. So I don't know. On our biggest distribution, with our biggest marketing budget, we probably had a 30-40 person team on the project. And our smallest film, it's me. Some films are so small that it's me. That's the team, and we're booking theaters and doing the marketing we can do. But yeah, it really varies based on budget.
Okay, we're at 4:58. Just scanning the questions. I've seen a couple that I'm going to ask you all to answer. It's just, I have a film sitting on my hard drive. I have an amazing script. I don't know where to start. So where from each of you, what's your number one step if you have not gone into production, or maybe you've just finished? Maybe let's start with if you haven't gone into production. Ideal scenario. You've just got the script and you're starting from square one. Brandon, you want to start that one off?
Yeah, as a distributor, what I think everybody has kind of a different flavor, a different way they like to encounter a project. For me, reading a screenplay is just like flying into a window for half an hour. And I don't get the story. I don't see it. I don't imagine it. So what I like to do if there's a project that I'm interested in that I get approached about is schedule a reading where I can go and listen to actors read the script, even if they don't have the budget for a full reading, even if it's just 20 or 30 pages. But a full reading is optimal for me to be able to start to see what the campaign should be, what the marketing should be, what theaters, what markets, what audience types, and what moments will be powerful trailer moments, what moments will be powerful poster and key art and marketing moments. But yeah, I like the live reading of the script up front.
Michelle?
I would add to that also to when you do the live screening, to have a marketer in that space, experiencing the live read, making notes and giving you guys feedback as filmmakers of important scenes that are going to be essential to capture for media stories and or for that could be a driving conversation, in your trailer. A lot of us have been around for a long time and we have seen what works, what doesn't work. I'm always pleasantly surprised when something, is out of the box and it works. And I love that. But I would say do the reading with a marketer in there with the purpose of getting some feedback. The other thing, and we talked to this at the very beginning with the reverse engineering, is hire your business partner right now. If you are just sitting there and you have a script, or you've even got your film on your hard drive, do you have a business partner that knows how to go and secure your distribution, or to at least start having those conversations on your behalf?
I've spent time with people on the production, and they plan their craft services budget, and they shop their lens. They want to make sure that their crew is fed and that they're getting the best glass on that lens that they can possibly afford, which is a great start. Identify the magic, just as Michelle was talking about. I love the live read that Brandon's talking about. There is an idea that you can start small. Films open limited release all the time. They don't, even the big studios will release a smaller film with a limited release. They will test to see how it plays, and they will go wide. I think Utah has a very great track record of being user-friendly for local filmmakers. We have an extraordinary talent pool. Utah Film Commission is heroic in what they do. And it's shameless, but the Miller family has given us the latitude to play films, hopefully, that wouldn't otherwise get played. And if it plays well here, if we can get some legs underneath it, I think both Brandon and Michelle would confirm that films have expanded from successful screenings that started with a friendly exhibitor like Megaplex. And if you can get that started, you're on your way. And everyone in Hollywood has started on these smaller projects, so don't panic. These are the steps you have to take. This is first waffle. The first waffle never turns out quite like you expected it to. You get to the second and the third, you're on your way. Occasionally it works, but these steps are important, and I'm hoping that this has been useful.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jeff, and everyone. And I also wanted to say, a couple of you asked, like, how do you find a distributor or a PR firm? In our directory on our website, film.utah.gov, we have a category for distribution. We have a category for advertising PR. We will also share the contacts of these three lovely people who gave their time to us today. And Christina just sent those through in the chat. So make sure you copy those over, and so you have them. And hopefully this has been useful. I know an hour goes by real fast and we barely scratched the surface. There was a couple of more in-depth questions that we got that we'll try to get answers to and send you back an email. And please use us as a resource. You can always email us and we can help you get answers to that. We love to try to, farm out those questions and help you make the best film you can. So thanks for being here so much.
I'm going to add just one last thing, and is our dear friend, who many of you guys will probably know, TC Christensen, is asked a lot, what is your favorite film? And he always replies with the one that I'm going to make. So as filmmakers, know what your next one is. He has been in this industry for so long, and he is still working and creating. So stay focused on that, on your goals.
Absolutely. Now go out there and make your film. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.